Themselves preppers. To them, preparing for the worst is serious business, a matter of life or death.
Fox 10 News reporter Hal Sherrick introduces you to some of those people who live right here on the Gulf Coast. It's a Fox 10 News special report.
It can happen in an instant or with very little warning. A disaster strikes and your life is turned upside down. Along the Gulf Coast, we prepare ourselves every year for hurricane season and the potential destruction it can bring. But there are those living amongst us who are prepared for much more. They call themselves preppers, and to them, it's a way of life. Chances are you have one or more as a neighbor and don't even know it. They don't advertise what they do, even to their close friends and family in many cases. To them, preparing for the worst has become a way of life, and their reasons for prepping are as varied as their personalities.
It could be anything. You know, it could be we wind up going to war, or, you know, a nuclear reactor, you know, messes up.
The worst case scenario is probably if the economy fell and governments would fall.
We've seen it all around the world and within our borders. Earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, and wildfires have destroyed the lives of millions. We now know that we're not safe from terrorist attacks here at home.
Everyone's running for their lives, literally.
And we've seen major power grids go down for long periods of time. A faltering U.S. economy has been slow to recover and has many worried as the value of the dollar continues to drop. The difference between a prepper and the rest of us is not as drastic as you may think. They just have a broader view.
Most preppers prep for everything. It's not about they're worried about one certain thing happening. It's making sure that you have the supplies or the means to survive no matter what happens.
Justin Teat started prepping when he began a family a short time ago. Since he began, it's something that's always on his mind. He doesn't make a trip to the grocery store without spending a few extra dollars on non-perishable food or other supplies. But Teat has a problem. As prepared as he may be, he lives in a heavily populated suburb of Mobile and worries about how ill-prepared most of his neighbors are. Protecting his family and his stockpile of necessities is a top priority.
Desperate times, people do desperate things. You know, you saw what happened in New Orleans after Katrina. People panicked, you know, and most of the people that were doing, you know, the looting and the robbing probably didn't do it anything like that a day in their life. But when it comes down to you have to provide for your family, you'll do whatever it takes. So if they're willing to do whatever it takes, you need to have the means and the supplies, whether it's guns or whatever, to do the exact same thing.
For Teat, safety for his family may mean getting away from his house. It might be because of the imminent threat from a chemical spill, a terrorist attack, or any other disaster that would throw the population into a panic. In a case like that, time is of the essence, and he's ready to bug out.
I'm in an area to where I can avoid most major highways. If you don't have a plan, probably the easiest way is some kind of farm, woods, you know, something like that, somewhere where there's not a lot of people. I've got everything I need to where I don't have to stop and think about plan or go to Walmart and try to stock up on stuff. Yeah, this is my bug out bag. It's about 3,000 cubic inches. Basically, this has everything that I would need if something suddenly happened and I had to grab, besides my kids, one thing.
Experts say you should pack a 3-day supply of food and water when you bug out. In most cases, things will start to calm down by then, and returning home may be possible. Teat's bug out plan will take him to an isolated piece of property with abundant wildlife and natural streams. With a good water and food supply, he's prepared to provide for his wife and 2 young children for an extended period of time. But what if disaster strikes while you're on the road, separated from your family? A prepper is ready for that scenario as well. Teat has built a special box into the back of his SUV.
I've got supplies here where, you know, I can make it a couple days if it takes me to get home.
As ready as Teat may seem, he's not satisfied with his level of preparedness and strives for more knowledge and a support system.
I'd really like to try to be more dependent on myself than the store, but definitely stocking more supplies and finding other preppers. You'll find where there are groups around the country that actually get together and they'll meet and they'll talk and give each other tips and tricks.
After beating the bush and the internet a bit, I found that Teat has more company than he may realize. In Baldwin County, Valerie and her family take pride and comfort in being better prepared than their neighbors. While some are preparing to get out of the house as quickly and safely as possible, others are preparing to stay in. And for some, it all begins with something as simple as planting a small garden. That's how Valerie got started 30 years ago, and today she has a lot of company. She is part of an all-women's preparedness group called Prepper Chicks. More on that later. In the Mobile area, I found a fairly large prepper association that gets together regularly to learn from one another. Most refused to go on camera, but 3 from the group agreed to meet and share their feelings.
You do have those kind of thoughts that, what's going to happen to the dollar, what's going on with the euro, what's the political climate in this country.
20 years ago, if I would have told you that there was going to be terrorist attacks inside the United States, you'd laugh. The Twin Towers did come down.
And I think that the catastrophic element is very dramatic, and it makes people go, oh, that would be so shocking. But it wouldn't take a catastrophic event in order for us to be in crisis.
That's just a taste of a very interesting and candid discussion I had with this group of Mobile area preppers. In part 2 of this series, I'll continue my discussion with them and introduce you to more of the prepper chicks from Baldwin County that I mentioned earlier. You'll see how easy it is to turn your small piece of property into a wealth of resources and have fun while doing it. You'll find much more on this topic, including what you should keep in a bug-out bag and air times for part 2 when you visit our website, fox10tv.com.
And Hal is still working on that part 2. We'll let you know when that story airs, so stay tuned for that.